You've entered the archives of the forgotten. I'm Dr. Haunted. Tonight I'll show you what was never meant to be seen. Just remember, once you know the truth, you can't unsee it. Working the night shift at Mercy General Hospital was supposed to be quiet. Fewer patients, minimal drama, just routine checks and paperwork. What nobody told me during orientation was that some patients never really leave. I'd been a registered nurse for 3 years when I took the overnight position in the cardiac wing. The pay differential was too good to pass up, and I figured I could handle the isolation. Room 237 was at the end of the hall, always kept empty despite the hospital's constant bed shortage. Maintenance issues, my supervisor explained when I asked. Plumbing problems that keep recurring. But I could see the room perfectly from the nurse's station, and it looked fine to me. My first week passed without incident. Then, during my second Thursday night, I noticed the call light for room 237 was illuminated. I walked down the hall, assuming it was an electrical malfunction, but when I opened the door, the light switched off immediately. The room was frigid, at least 20 degrees colder than the hallway. My breath formed small clouds as I checked the thermostat, set to normal temperature, functioning properly. "Hello?" I called softly, feeling foolish. The room was clearly empty, but something made me check the bathroom, the closet, even under the bed. Nothing. The next night, the call light activated again at exactly 3:17 a.m. Same cold temperature, same empty room. This time I noticed the bed linens were disturbed, as if someone had been lying there recently. The pillow held the distinct impression of a head. I mentioned it to Margaret, the day shift supervisor who'd worked at Mercy for 30 years. Her face went pale. "What exactly did you see?" I described the cool light, the cold, the disturbed bedding. Margaret sat down heavily at her desk. "Room 237 was where Eleanor Vance died," she said quietly. 17 years ago. Massive heart attack during the night shift. She was alone, pressed her call button, but died before anyone could reach her. That's sad, but she kept pressing that button for 6 hours after she died. The whole night shift heard it. Constant beeping from a room with no living patient. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What happened? They disconnected the call system in that room, but every few months it lights up anyway. Always at 3:17 a.m., the exact time Eleanor died. Despite my skepticism, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me during my rounds. The temperature drops in room 237 became more frequent, and I started finding personal items that shouldn't have been there. Reading glasses on the nightstand, knitting needles in the drawer, a half-finished crossword puzzle on the bed, items that belonged to an elderly woman. The night everything changed was during a severe thunderstorm. The power flickered repeatedly, and the backup generators kept cycling on and off. I was checking medication dosages when every call light on the floor activated simultaneously, except they were all flashing in perfect synchronization. The pattern spelled out Morse code, SOS. I ran to room 237. The door was closed, though I was certain I'd left it open during my last check. Inside, the temperature was so cold I could see ice crystals forming on the windows. The bed was occupied. An elderly woman lay under the covers, her grey hair spread across the pillow, her face peaceful, but unmistakably lifeless. She wore a hospital gown from a design that hadn't been used in over a decade. I blinked, and she was gone, but the mattress still held her shape, and the air smelled faintly of lavender perfume. That's when I understood. Eleanor wasn't haunting room 237. She was still dying there, night after night, trapped in those final moments when she realized no one was coming to help. I pulled a chair beside the empty bed and sat down. "I'm here," I said to the silence. "You're not alone," The call light switched off immediately. The temperature returned to normal, and for the first time since I'd started working nights, the room felt peaceful. I still work the night shift at Mercy General. Room 237 is still officially out of service, but I check on it every night at 3:17 a.m. Sometimes the call light activates, and when it does, I sit with Eleanor until she's ready to let go. Some patients need more than medical care. Sometimes they just need someone to witness their passing, to ensure they don't die forgotten and alone. The night shift teaches you that healing isn't always about curing the living. Sometimes it's about comforting the dead. Estate sales are treasure hunts for people like me, antique dealers who make their living from other people's forgotten memories. But some memories are forgotten for good reason. The Whitmore estate sale was advertised as a complete liquidation of a Victorian mansion that had been in the family for over a century. 3 generations of accumulated possessions spread across 30 rooms, everything from furniture to jewellery to children's toys. That's where I found the music box. It sat alone on a dusty shelf in what had been a child's nursery. A beautiful piece crafted from dark walnut with intricate mother-of-pearl inlays. The figurine inside was a little girl in a blue dress, frozen mid-dance with her arms extended gracefully. The asking price was ridiculously low, $20 for what was clearly a valuable antique. When I asked the estate sale organizer about it, she looked uncomfortable. The family specifically wanted that piece sold cheap, she said. They were eager to see it go. I wound the key on the bottom, expecting the typical tinkling melody of For Elise or the Blue Danube. Instead, it played a haunting lullaby I'd never heard before. Slow, mournful notes that seemed to hang in the air long after they should have faded. The little dancer turned slowly, her painted face serene but oddly lifelike. For just a moment, I could have sworn she was looking directly at me. I bought it immediately. At home, I placed the music box on my mantelpiece and researched its origins. The craftsmanship suggested European manufacture, probably late 1800s, but I couldn't identify the maker or the tune it played. That first night, I woke to the sound of music drifting through my house. The haunting lullaby was playing softly, coming from the living room. I found the music box open, the little dancer spinning slowly in the moonlight streaming through my windows. But I was certain I hadn't wound it before bed. Maybe the mechanism was faulty, still holding tension from earlier. I closed the lid and went back to sleep. The next morning, I noticed something odd. The dancer's position had changed. Her arms, which had been extended in a classical ballet pose, were now raised above her head, and her painted expression seemed different, less serene, more pleading. I examined the figurine carefully, but the details were so fine it was hard to be certain. Maybe I'd misremembered her original position. The music continued every night at exactly 3:33 a.m. Always the same mournful lullaby, always playing for exactly 7 minutes. I started timing it, documenting the occurrences in a notebook. By the end of the first week, I was certain the dancer was changing. Her pose shifted subtly each night. Sometimes her head was turned left instead of right. Sometimes her dress appeared to flutter as if moved by an unfelt breeze. More disturbing were the dreams that accompanied the music. I found myself standing in a Victorian nursery, watching a little girl in a blue dress dance to the same haunting lullaby. But she wasn't alone. A tall man in dark clothing stood in the shadows, watching her with an intensity that made my skin crawl. The girl would dance for hours, never stopping, never resting, while the man observed from the corner. Even when she began to stumble with exhaustion, even when tears streamed down her face, the music continued and she had to keep dancing. I researched the Whitmore family history at the local historical society. What I found made me wish I'd never bought the music box. Margaret Whitmore, aged 7, had disappeared from the family estate in 1889. According to newspaper accounts, she vanished from her nursery during the night, leaving behind only her favorite music box, still playing its melody. Her body was never found, but her tutor, a man named Thomas Blackwell, disappeared the same night. Police suspected foul play but could never prove it. The most chilling detail was in Margaret's mother's diary, preserved in the Historical Society's archives. Margaret loved to dance, but Thomas made her practice for hours beyond her endurance. Even when she begged to stop, he insisted she continue. Perfection requires sacrifice, he would say. That night, the music box played for longer than usual, nearly 20 minutes of the endless repetitive lullaby. When I checked on it, the dancer was in a new position I'd never seen before. She was slumped forward, her tiny hands pressed against the inside of the glass dome, her painted face turned upward, as if pleading for help. I could see myself reflected in the glass, but behind my reflection was another figure. A tall man in Victorian clothing, his hands resting possessively on a little girl's shoulders. I understood then what the music box really was. Not just a toy, but a prison. Margaret Whitmore had been trapped inside, forced to dance eternally for the man who had stolen her life. The next morning, I took the music box to my backyard and smashed it with a hammer. The walnut case splintered, the mother-of-pearl inlays scattered like tears, and the little dancer broke into a dozen pieces. As the figurine shattered, I heard something that wasn't quite sound. A sigh of relief, a whisper of gratitude, the faint laughter of a child finally free to rest. I buried the pieces in my garden and planted white roses on top. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, I can hear children playing in my yard, the sound of innocent laughter replacing that haunting lullaby. Some antiques carry more than memories. Some carry souls that have been waiting over a century for someone to set them free. The Meridian office complex was supposed to be my easy retirement job. 12-hour overnight shifts watching empty buildings through security cameras, doing occasional perimeter walks, and getting paid to essentially do nothing. After 30 years as a police officer, I thought I'd seen everything that could disturb a man's sleep. I was wrong. The complex consisted of 3 connected buildings housing various businesses, law firms, accounting offices, a small medical practice. During the day, it buzzed with activity. At night, it was supposed to be completely empty, except for me. My first week was blissfully boring. I spent my nights reading paperback novels and watching old movies on my tablet. The security monitors showed nothing but empty hallways illuminated by emergency lighting. Then I started noticing the elevator. Building 2 had a single elevator that serviced all 6 floors. According to the system logs, it should have been in maintenance mode after hours, only operable with a security key. But every night around 2 a.m. I would hear it running. The mechanical whir of cables, the soft ding of floors being reached. The security camera for the elevator lobby showed nothing unusual. Empty hallway, closed elevator doors. But the floor indicator above the doors showed the car moving, stopping at the 3rd floor, then the 5th, then back down to the 2nd. I figured it was a mechanical issue and made a note for the day shift maintenance crew, but they found nothing wrong with the system. The 2nd week, the pattern became more pronounced. The elevator would run from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. every night, stopping at different floors in what seemed like a deliberate sequence. I started mapping the stops. 3rd floor, 5th floor, 2nd floor, 4th floor, 6th floor, 1st floor, back to 3rd. Always the same pattern. Always the same times. During my 3rd week, I decided to investigate. I took the stairs to the 3rd floor while the elevator was supposedly in use. The hallway was empty, lit only by exit signs, but I could hear something that made my blood run cold. Footsteps. High heels clicking on marble flooring, walking from the elevator toward the far end of the hall. I followed the sound, but saw nothing. The footsteps stopped at the office of Patterson and Associates, a small law firm. I heard the distinct sound of a key turning in a lock, then silence. The office door was locked tight. I used my master key to check inside, empty, undisturbed, showing no signs that anyone had been there. But the air conditioning was running, and there was a faint scent of perfume. I checked the building directory. Patterson and Associates occupied Suite 315. I researched the firm online and found something interesting. It had been established in 1987 by Margaret Patterson, who worked alone until her death in 2003. She had died in her office, apparently from a heart attack, and wasn't discovered until Monday morning. The newspaper obituary mentioned she was known for working late into the night, often staying until 3 a.m. to finish cases. The next night, I positioned myself in the third-floor hallway before 2 a.m. The elevator arrived precisely on schedule, doors opening to reveal an empty car. But the floor indicator showed someone had pressed the button for the third floor. I waited. At 2:15, I heard the familiar click of high heels approaching from the elevator. This time I could see something, not a person, but a disturbance in the air, like heat shimmer rising from summer pavement. The disturbance moved with purpose towards Suite 315. I followed, and as I got closer, the shimmer became more defined. A woman in a business suit, her greying hair pulled back in a professional bun, walked with the determined stride of someone who had important work to finish. She stopped at her office door, turned a key that wasn't there, and stepped through the solid wood as if it were made of mist. Inside the office, I could hear the sounds of someone working, papers rustling, keyboard clicking, the soft murmur of someone reading legal documents aloud. Margaret Patterson was still practicing law 20 years after her death. I started leaving her alone during her nightly rounds. What harm was there in letting a dedicated attorney finish her cases? But curiosity got the better of me, and I researched her death more thoroughly. Margaret had been working on a pro bono case when she died, defending a family against wrongful eviction. She'd been close to finding the evidence that would save their home, but died before she could present it in court. The family lost their case and their house. That's when I understood. Margaret wasn't just working. She was trying to finish what she'd started, to right a wrong that had haunted her for 2 decades. I spent the next day researching the eviction case. The legal precedent Margaret had been pursuing was still valid, and the family, now scattered but still fighting similar battles, could benefit from her work. That night, I waited in Suite 315. At 2:15, Margaret appeared, more solid than I'd ever seen her. She looked at me with surprise but no fear. "You can see me," she said, her voice like whispers on old paper. "I can see you're not finished," I replied. I helped her that night and many nights after. She would dictate legal arguments while I typed them on my laptop. She would point to law books that materialized from nowhere, and I would research the cases she referenced. It took 3 months, but we completed her work. The legal brief was airtight, the precedents were solid, and the evidence was damning. I submitted it anonymously to a civil rights law firm who used it to reopen the case and win compensation for the family. Margaret Patterson's last case was finally closed. The elevator stopped running at night after that. Suite 315 remained silent, but sometimes, when I walk past that office, I can smell the faint scent of perfume and hear the satisfied sigh of someone whose work is finally done. Some people are so dedicated to justice that death itself can't make them abandon their cases. They just need someone willing to help them finish what they started. That concludes tonight's case. But the shadows don't sleep. I'm Dr. Haunted. Until next time, keep your doors locked, your lights low, and your nightmares closer.